Good morning, everybody. It is Saturday morning, Mrs. Everly, and I am ready to do some order of ops with you this morning. So, in the background, you might hear a show, and my little guy Ari is watching Shaun the Sheep, so you might hear some bawling. So, anyway, the problem we're going to do is pretty difficult, so I'm going to write it out. -10 divided by, and again, you're going to write this out at the same time, -3 2/3, and you just might get more and more scared as I write this, -2 6/7 times 5.6. Alright, so what I would advise you to do is think about what the first step is. Try it on your own. Pause the video. Try it on your own. And then once you've done the first step, only the first step, not the entire problem, play the video and see if you got it right with me. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to start. So this would be a good time to pause if you're going to do the first step on your own. But if I go to the first step of order of ops, I'm going to go to the parentheses. So I am going to start with this stuff inside here. And what I notice is that both of them are mixed numbers. So I can either work with mixed numbers or convert them to improper. My advice would be converting to improper every time, especially when you see you have negatives in there. So I'm going to convert it. And I'm going to have, for this one, I'm going to have a certain number of thirds. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11 thirds. And then this one, I will have a certain number of sevenths, and I'll have 7 times 2, which is 14, plus 6, which would end up being 20. So there are my improper fractions. And now I'm going to see whether I add or subtract these numbers and whether the answer is positive or negative. So I'm going to use my number sense just by looking up here. I see if I think about it and I'm on the number line, actually I'll do it down here. If I'm on the number line, I start at 0 and I go -3 2/3. Well, I'm going to go left, okay? I'm going to go in a negative amount. And then I'm subtracting something. So from here, if I'm subtracting, I keep going. Meaning my answer is going to be negative. And what would I do with these two numbers? Really just add them together, okay? And then I just have to remember that their answer is negative. So I'm going to erase this part because this is what I'm thinking in my head to help me figure this out. I'm using my number sense capabilities. So I have the negative there so that when I get my answer, I'm just going to write it in. And then I run into another issue. These do not have common denominators. So to make the common denominator, I am going to multiply to get their LCD, their least common denominator, which would be 21. So I'm going to multiply that by 7 and this one by 3. So I am at 77 over 21 and I'm at 60 over 21. And if I add those together, I'm going to have a certain number of 21sts. That'll be 137 21sts. 77 plus 60 would be 137. And we remembered that it was negative from our number line picture. So far I'm going to erase what I have here. And I have just done what's inside the parentheses and got -137 over 21. So I'm going to write that in, -137 over 21, and I'm going to rewrite the rest of the problem. We had the -10 divided by that, and then times 5.6. Alright, so first step is done. Now at this point, if you think you know the second step, go ahead and pause it and try it. Otherwise, I'm going to start in. Second step is going to be exponents. We have none, so then I'm going to go to multiplication division. And we do. We have division and multiplication. And you do it from left to right, like reading a book. So I start here. What I take note of right away is that I see I have negatives being divided. Meaning they're the same sign, so my answer is going to be positive. So I do not have to write a negative here. So I'm going to erase that because it's not going to be negative. And then I just start in with the multiplication. But then I run into a problem. Did I say multiplying? I meant divide. I run into a problem because this number, negative 10, is not a fraction. And this one is. Meaning I need to make negative 10 a fraction. So negative 10 is a fraction. And I'm not even going to think about the negatives because I already know that the answer is going to be positive. So it's going to be 10 over 1 divided by 137 over 21. Now, can I divide straight across without getting decimals? No. Meaning that I'm going to have to change this division to something else. So what is that something else? It's multiplication. So I'm going to leave 10 over 1. I'm going to change it to multiplying. And I'm going to flip around this number. So let me rewrite this. So instead of dividing, I'm going to multiply. So I have 10 over 1 times, not 137 over 21. I take the reciprocal because now I'm multiplying. And it'll look like this. And now I just multiply straight across. So can you do 21 times 10 off the top of your head? Awesome. And then 1 times 137? Awesome, you guys are good. So there it is. When we did the division, we got a pretty gross answer of 210 over 137. And is that the final answer to the problem? Heck no! Because we still have a times by 5.6. All right, but we are close. So the only thing left is multiplying. So I run into an issue because I have a fraction, and actually this is an improper fraction, and I have a decimal number. So whenever I'm working with some fractional type numbers, I want to work with fractions. You don't want to convert this thing to a decimal. So I would make this into a fraction. So 5.6 as a mixed number would be 5 6/10. But really, if I divide that by 2, that would be 3/5. So I'm going to write that in, 3/5. Okay, and then I'm going to keep going because this one's improper. I want to make this single. When I multiply, I need it single. So to make it improper, I do 5 times 5 times 3. 5 times 5 plus 3, 25, and then 28. So this is really 28 over 5. Are we good? Okay, so we are almost there. So now I have multiplication, multiplying across. I see I'm working with humongo numbers. So I'm going to rewrite this. 210 over 137 times, now I forgot what the last one was, 28 over 5. What I would recommend is if you see you're going to just end up with incredibly large numbers when you multiply, is to see if you have anything that reduces with each other. So I'd be like, does 137 and 210, is there something that divides into both of those? And no, I can't think of one off the top of my head. So then I'll look at 210 and 5. Will anything divide out of those two? And yeah, those are both divisible by 5. So I'm going to divide 5 by 5, and I'm at 1. And I'm going to divide 210 by 5, and I don't know that off the top of my head. But I know it's divisible by 5. So that's 20, 10, 2. 42, which is much nicer to use than 210. So that's a little better. So now really I have 42 times 28 over 137 times 1. So now I need to do 42 times 28. And I'm at... I know, Ari, this is a long problem, huh? We're almost done. Whoa, 1,176 over 137 times 1, which is 137. Last but not least, that's our answer. I would say, though, that this really means nothing in my brain until I convert it back to a mixed number. So that would be my final thing, would be to just make it a nice mixed number. So 1176 divided by 137. Final step, try it on your own, pause the video, see what you get, and then I'll start in. 137 doesn't go into 1, it doesn't go into 11, it doesn't go into 117, it goes into 1176. Oh my gosh, I don't know how many times. I'll try 8. $1,096. Could I add another 137 to that? Nope, too much. So it's going to be 8 times 1,096. Subtract, and I'm almost done, and I'm getting excited. And so is my little guy Ari. 17 minus 9 is going to be 8. And there it is. I have my final answer. Do you see what it is? So there it is. It is 8 and 80 137ths. Woo! Way to go, people. Way to hang in there. So I will see you in class on Monday, and be prepared to do some tough order of ops problems, people.